After a few glue ups, I've decided to maybe just kind of talk a little bit about my wood selection process kind of thing. A lot of it depends on the board, so I spend a lot more time than maybe people realize on like board selection and kind of stuff like that, even though sometimes it just looks very random and sporadic kind of thing. But as I mentioned with this one in the previous video, that this nail hole here lines up with a piece on the pattern that's an offcut. So that was something that I did on purpose to like line it up, and so I can kind of utilize that board a bit more. Otherwise, that's something that you either have to rip that board down a bit, or it just makes it a bit harder to use. So if I can kind of incorporate blemishes into the offcuts, um, that's just one way to kind of utilize and save the board a bit more. Another thing with some blemishes, as it were, like this one here, it's got this kind of split kind of thing, and actually right now I got some CA glue, like super glue kind of stuff, stabilizing it before it gets the final sand and plane and everything like that. Um, and then with this, I'm trying a new process that I'll show in a different video, not to spoil anything, but where that kind of doesn't matter that there's that crack per se. You won't really notice it, won't see it, and like I said, it's going to be stable anyways. Then here, this is some oak, and I actually ended up doing this in two separate glue ups. I did these three here first, and then added this one, and this will be ripped down. I only needed about another extra inch and a half maybe, but I didn't have any just strips, and I decided to glue it up all as one so I can plane it. And you can kind of see here this has got a bit of a blemish too that also got kind of stabilized, and once this gets ran through the table saw, most of that'll be gone anyways, but I wanted it kind of stable for gluing. And then also just species of wood and choices. So as I mentioned, this is walnut, this will be oak, and then this is just pine or spruce, whatever kind of white wood kind of stuff. Certain things I choose for certain projects, like this one is for the wolf pattern that I showed in a previous video. I've done that one before, and actually I did that out of walnut, and that was a long time ago. That was when I was living in Tennessee, and where walnut was a bit more available. And it looked really nice. I really like working with walnut. It mills really good. It cuts really good. It has a really nice color and grain and nice solid. It's really nice to work with. But as I maybe mentioned in another video again, it's not something I have a ton of access to for the reclamation side. Yeah, I can go to the store and buy it kind of thing, but I like using reclaimed materials as much as I possibly can. And walnut is just not something that really shows up around here too much for that type of thing, anyways. This came from a pallet. I believe this was either when I was working at a tool store, or it could have been when I was doing renovations, and it could have been something that got shipped. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, like so walnuts not overly common, and in my one video where I was cutting all this at the table saw, you could see how split and cracked, and even here I mentioned that there's some splits and cracks, and there's blemishes and nail holes, and I'm trying to squeeze out as much of the board as I can, just for that reason, because it's not something I could come across reclamation wise too often. Oak, there's quite a bit of oak around where I am. Same thing though. I kind of use it for certain projects, more special projects, maybe. Like certain things, I just use the pine. If I'm gonna, especially if I'm gonna stain it, paint it, whatever, I use pine or poplar or whatever. Uh, just it's also kind of my personal preference because I always love like using like the natural color and the grain of oak, walnut, maple, etc., etc. I like the actual grain where and the colors, whereas pine is kind of something that I'm okay with staining. It's not really hiding some of the natural colors and hues, as it were. Um, Now, having said that, there are times where I do have some pine boards that do have nice colors and stuff, but a lot of times it's just kind of this. Um, but yeah, so this is going to be another project. I believe it's going to be a kind of looks like a hawk, or maybe it's a kestrel. I can't remember exactly what the pattern called it, but a bird of some sort. And this one will be kind of like a western bull rider kind of thing, and then this will get a different finish that I kind of alluded to that I'm gonna have a different video about on a, a new way of trying some finishes. Um, this also came from a board that was quite a bit thicker. It started off about 3/4 inch, and now I don't have a tape measure handy right here, but I think it's about maybe 3/8. So about half of the board kind of got planed away, which I know sounds like a lot, but the board was extremely warped and twisted. And when I cut it into smaller pieces, when you cut it takes some of that warping and twisting out. But even still, after jointing and planing, it just gets thinner and thinner. But it was something that I was able to salvage, whereas that whole board would have been just thrown away. Um, this was all pallet wood, and this was all pallet wood as well. So yeah, that's just a few things about some of the wood selection, wood species, and just so happens that right now I have three different ones at the clamps. Obviously, that one's not clamped up, but it was. But anyways, yeah, that's just a bit about the clamping, gluing process, and a bit of the wood selection process, and yeah,